Okay, so now we're gonna do another um, match. This one is in the 800 range. We have Matt Dearsley, who we featured last time, who was another base skipper, but this is a one where Matt Dearsley wins, so I thought it was interesting. So Matt Dearsley is 771 with about 80 games played, and Lyric is 819 with over 100 games played. So Lyric I played recently in a game, and they seem like they did some things correctly. Like their builds made sense, so stuff like that. So we'll get to see because between the two of these, I would place Lyric as much better. So I would call this a bit of an upset. So let's sort of see what happens here. Okay, so the first thing to see is Drake versus Von Bolt on a high funds map. So this looks pretty crazy out of context, but the fact that it's high funds gives Drake a bit of Drake makes a bit more sense. This map is pretty heavy on plains in the center, and rain, although not as good as snow, slows you down a fair bit with treads and plains. So yeah, seems like a solid Drake map. Um, the airports are pretty central, but you capture them kind of late. So the B copter spam or bomber spam doesn't happen until a bit later. And plus, with even though Drake's air is at 80% power, they still kind of effectively do their thing. Although, his fighters versus Olaf's versus Von Bolt's fighters, it's not a great matchup. Okay, so let's get into the game then. Okay, so far standard opening. So Matt Dearsley decides to move forward with his infantry first, as opposed to back capping these two. You can do capture, com tower. So yeah, that's an option. That's his first real choice. So Lyric decides to capture this property and presumably this property with his back infantry. Um, yeah, that seems good too. I think this map has a number of openings that all kind of work. Okay, first vehicle is a tank from Matt Dearsley. Um, it could have been a medium tank, but he decides to make it a tank. Um, you could do tank into neo tank next turn, which you might do, which seems solid. Versus Von Bolt, you probably just want to try to play Stalwart strat, so maybe an artillery would have been like a more maybe that'd be a better thing to do here, but I'm not sure. I'm not all that great in stall tactics, especially in high phones. Yeah, because Lyric immediately answers with a medium tank. And that medium tank actually could have been a Neo tank, which I would have preferred here, I think. Lillian has really gone heavy into Neo tank builds, especially on this map. And the extra +1 movement you get is pretty good. So yeah, I like Neo tanks. Not a huge fan of medium tanks on an open map like this. Because now Matt Dearsley can respond with a Neo tank, and he does. Okay. Yeah, nice build for sure. And actually splitting up the tank to go one way and then Neo tank to go the other is pretty nice. Because, well, I mean, maybe you want the Neo tank around to protect the tank. Yeah, I forgot I said that. Second medium tank from Lyric, I'm not a huge fan of. Um, two medium tank into Neo tank is a little bit dangerous because you can get first struck with one, and then your medium tank into Neo tank. So like basically Neo tank into double medium tank wins if it gets first strike, I think, and then of course, the two medium tanks for striking a Neo tank wins the exchange, but you know, two medium tanks is 32k and one Neo tank is 22k. So the fact that the Neo tank wins half the time is a little bit problematic. Oh, interesting. So Matt Dearsley goes double anti-air to respond to an uncaptured airport. I think that's a little greedy. Maybe an artillery instead would be better. Um, in fact, this infantry could have even been an artillery. So yeah, nah. One anti-air is fine. Two anti-air, I think, is a little much at this stage. It's not the biggest deal. It's just gonna lose him some tempo in a few turns. Okay, keeping the Neo tanks apart is kind of dangerous. I think you want the two medium tanks to be next to each other so they can effectively scare off the Neo tank. Yeah, because otherwise now you can do stuff like this where you can shoot forward with your tank, interrupt, and then counter hit the medium tank very hard. Okay, and actually a Neo tank and an infantry skip. Um, I actually don't mind this infantry skip so much. There's already a lot of infantry down here that are just kind of accumulating and trying to slowly build up. Oh, interesting that the infantry captured here and then got the com tower and is now capturing back. I usually see it the other way around. Um, in this scenario, Matt Dearsley only gets a little bit of utility from the extra com tower here from the two com towers. Well, I guess mm, yeah, it doesn't make that much of a difference. So maybe delaying the city is okay. Although he is attacking into 110 defense, so actually, I respect the idea that you want to double up on com towers immediately and then go from there. Okay, allowing the Neo to get first struck here is not great because it's a Von Bolt Neo. Um, that did a lot more damage than I anticipated, actually. It's Von Bolt with one tower. You can still counter hit from the forest, and it's okay. Um, but yeah, that kind of takes away a bit of tempo. But it does give you charge, so I think Matt usually is doing the right thing in building big, heavy units that trade somewhat evenly so that you can get Super CO power going. So yeah, not the worst, not the worst Counter when you strike when you consider the context of the Super CO powers. Yeah, 4-3 split. And so actually we see a Drake bomber here. No anti-air on the map for Lyric, so that much makes sense. Anti-air on the city, I don't understand. Oh, it was killing an infantry? Okay, well, I think this will still be interrupted by this tank, so yeah, a little dangerous. Another build skip, this time with the bomber. Um, uh, I'm not sure how to think about that. Yeah, it's a little sketchy. I think it's better to I think it's better to just find something else to build, like a medium tank. Or yeah, it's a close call though, because bombers are really good in high funds, especially into all these heavy tanks. So I don't know. The jury's out on that one. Okay, we see Tsunami come out. I think it's probably better to wait for a Typhoon because yeah, I think I prefer to wait for Typhoon so you get the rain effect, helping you out against these heavy tanks. Instead of a B-copter here, I think I would have rather seen a medium tank here. Because he already has enough anti-air, and it's not like his B-copter is going to do a whole lot, I think. So yeah, I think I'd rather see medium tank than a B-copter. Let's see what Matt Dearsley does with his bomber. Okay, actually finds a free hit, which is a pretty big deal. And now Matt Dearsley transitioning pretty heavily into tank, helicopter, anti-air instead of continuing the heavy tank fight. Okay, bomber into anti-air. Not really a fan of that. This tank is at risk of being trapped. I'm surprised it hasn't been already. Now it can sort of sit on the HQ and get a nice shot off before it dies. So far, the income is going to Matt Dearsley. I'm not sure what to think of this B-copter spam as Drake into Von Bolt. Not really a fan of that. I think those could be instead like heavy tanks. Okay, here's another Tsunami instead of a Typhoon. Yeah, again, just these little optimizations really make a big difference when they're stacked up turn after turn. Oh, that's something interesting. Ex Machina pops in and targets on his own Neo tank to disable these units. So yeah. Oh, and Matt Dewsley's gonna lose this Neo tank while he's in power cooldown, so that's pretty bad. So Matt Dearsley actually up to a 10k income advantage, which is really significant, and he's continuing to extend it. Um, so that's what's keeping him in the game right now. Oh, another big shot onto his bomber. It's Matt Dearsley's turn. Please, Matt Dearsley, use the Super CO power. Okay, so it looks like he is going to go for Super CO power. So Lyric is up to a pretty significant. Okay, so here's Typhoon. Um, Lyric is up to a pretty significant unit count advantage, but it is it's 10 unit difference. Well, I guess 8. But it's Matt Dearsley's turn, and he's about to get a big attack on. Or is he? Yeah. I mean, still, the army value differential is pretty significant. He's back to spamming mega neo tanks, rather. And luckily, he doesn't take too much damage on the turn that he Super CO powers. And now he's going to get a lot of charge in the next few turns. It's almost like Matt usually doesn't know how to spend all his money. So he's spamming Drake B-copters. Yeah, so all these attacks onto his B-copters are just like free charge for him. He doesn't need those B-copters that much, and the charge is worth a lot. Okay, so there. Looks like there's going to be a. Oh, there. Okay, there's the Super Steel power. And here comes Tsunami. This is a real slugfest. I think what we're seeing here is just like the just repeated mass damage and even trade is just gonna tilt the tables further and further to Drake because his Super CO power actually does something pretty significant, unlike Von Bolt's. Okay, that's a lot of Neo tanks and bombers in the center. And all these medium tanks. I think it's better for Von Bolt to match the unit composition as opposed to pretend to be Kanbei by building more of a lower tech unit. Okay, here's Tsunami again. I think these would be a lot more powerful if they're Typhoons. At least that's the way that I play it, and it seems to work for me. Yeah, he did so much damage here. He could have charged his Super CO power, in fact, actually. And all the anti-air are grouped on the very top here, so his bombers are free to roam around here. A fighter from Von Bolt would have been nice earlier, just to sack into a bomber and trade for a plus 2k gold efficient trade. And even then, it's hard to kill a fighter, so yeah. So I think that the lesson of this one, okay, bomber occupies an airport. Yeah, now we're really looking bad for Lyric. Yeah, this is starting to look like GG again. That's a really juicy Von Bolt Super CO power. The problem is like catching up means charging Von Bolt's meter, so it's a dangerous. It's hard to work your way back against a deficit with Drake. Okay, now there's really nothing left in the middle for Lyric. So there's the resign. Okay, cool. So I think the main thing here is Matt Dearsley just played like a more stereotypical high funds unit count that seems to be popular right now, which is heavy neo tank, a number of bombers, a few anti-air scattered in, and then a number of tanks. Kind of skipping out on medium tanks. And all the B-copters, a little bit, maybe not necessary, but I guess it helps them catch up in unit count. And they did serve some utility, and it was a good way of him for it was a good way of him to uh, like sacrifice units for charge, which is Drake's game plan. So cool, that was the 800 match.